I was chatting with a friend the other day, and she was seriously debating whether to finally replace the old intercom she's been using since college. She told me she's tired of the clunky beeps, the dead air moments, and the fact that her current system can't even play music in the hallway. I could hear the hesitation in her voice. She didn't want to waste money on something that would just sit on a shelf, but she also didn't want to settle for a cheap unit that would drop calls or lose Bluetooth sync. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking into retro-styled intercoms, the market quickly narrowed down to a handful of options that actually let you talk from room to room, stream a playlist, and still keep that nostalgic look. The Intrasonic retro intercom from Unistore stood out because it tries to be more than just a speakerphone. It's a full-featured hub, built-in AM/FM radio with 10 presets, a Bluetooth receiver that sits in the docking area, a USB port for plugging in a music drive, and even a door chime selector with an optional release mechanism. The big claim is automatic selective call technology that supposedly routes calls to the right room without you having to press extra buttons. That sounded promising for a family home where you might want the kitchen to hear the front door chime, but not the bedroom. So who actually benefits from this blend of vintage aesthetics and modern connectivity? If you live in a house with 3 to 4 separate zones, say a kitchen, a living room, a master bedroom, and a home office, you'll find the ability to monitor each space from a single base station genuinely handy. Picture this. You're cooking, the front door chime rings, and the intercom instantly flashes the entry zone, letting you decide whether to answer from the kitchen or send a quick, "I'm busy, come back later" voice note. That's a real-world use case that saves you from sprinting across the house just to hear who's at the door. Parents with small kids also love the feature that lets you talk to a specific room. You can tell your toddler to stay off the couch without shouting down the hallway. On the flip side, if you're in a small apartment with only a living room and a bedroom, you might not extract enough value from the extra zones and the door chime integration. The system's price point sits a bit higher than a basic 2-unit intercom, and you'll end up paying for features you never touch. Also, the Bluetooth receiver is housed inside the docking area, which means you have to keep the base unit nearby to stream music. If you wanted a portable speaker that you could toss onto a coffee table in the backyard, this setup won't accommodate that. Your music will stay anchored to wherever you've placed the dock. The practical strengths become clearer once you actually plug it in. The AM/FM radio is surprisingly clear for a unit of this size, and the 10 preset stations mean you can program your favorite talk shows or music channels once and never worry about fiddling with dial knobs again. I tested the USB music playback by loading a folder of indie tracks, and the unit switched seamlessly between songs without any noticeable lag. The Bluetooth connection was stable within a 30-foot radius, which is more than enough for most single-story homes. The automatic selective call technology lived up to its name. When I pressed the intercom button in the kitchen, the system rang only the living room and the master bedroom, leaving the home office silent. That prevented the unnecessary ding-ding-ding in the study when I was on a video call. However, there are some hidden trade-offs that aren't obvious in the marketing copy. The intercom speaker volume is decent but not booming. If you have a noisy kitchen with the dishwasher running, you'll need to raise the volume higher than you might like, and it can become a bit tinny. The door chime options are limited to a handful of classic tones, and while you can enable an optional door release, it requires additional wiring that might be beyond the comfort zone of a DIY-only homeowner. Also, the system's retro casing is made of plastic that mimics wood grain. It looks great on a mid-century wall, but if you have a modern minimalist core, the design could clash rather than complement. One practical weakness that popped up during my week-long trial was the lack of a true "do not disturb" mode. The intercom will always announce a call or a door chime, even if you're in the middle of a movie. You can mute the speaker manually, but that defeats the purpose of having a hands-free alert system. For households that value absolute silence during certain hours, you'll have to develop a routine of turning the unit off at night, which is an extra step most users don't anticipate. Overall, the value of the Intrasonic retro intercom comes from its ability to merge several functions into one hub. You're not buying 3 separate devices: a radio,